taken me a few starts to get this intro right, but I'm really excited about today's topic, which is finding the lessons in 2020. This year has been an incredibly difficult year. I figured that together we could reflect on some of the lessons we've learned this year in terms of fueling and feeding the seeds of growth and change, both individually and collectively. I want to just say that in no way am I minimizing the difficulty, the hardship, the loss, and the pain that has resulted from this year. As I hear people reaffirming their excitement for the new year, it's been mostly in the context of, pardon my French, but fuck 2020, or 2020 was the worst year. I understand that. I truly understand that sentiment. When we have adversity and hardship, the worst thing to do is to write it off, to negate it, to try to avoid it, bypass it. And this is speaking from my own experience. I know that there's this stage of denial, right? Within those stages, we move to the point where we can begin to reflect on and integrate and accept what has happened and what we can learn from it to fuel us. So that's what I hope to inspire with this podcast. I want to start with the individual lessons of 2020 and end with a thought on our collective lessons in 2020. Because those two things are intertwined and interdependent. Reself is built on this idea: by improving ourselves, we are improving the world, one person at a time. So to kick off our individual lessons, I thought I'd start with this quote: "The only way out is through." For me, in my experience, I've found this to be the ultimate truth of working through hardship and adversity and building resilience. By leaning into discomfort, we heal, we integrate, we overcome, we empower ourselves. In that same sense, it's easier to accept things that we label as good, but it's up to us to learn and grow from what we label as bad. Grow through what you go through. Right? It's all about taking the adversity, taking the hardship, taking the difficult experiences and learning from them. And that's how we empower our growth. That's how we heal. That's how we are able to move through life in a place of center, regardless of what's going on, because we can't control what is going on outside of ourselves. We can't control how other people act or how other people treat us. We can only control ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, our responses. But more on that in a second. We're building resilience. We're not avoiding the difficult or trying to bypass it. We're going to stand tall and face it. So with that, let's reflect. 2020 brought up these few things I think that everyone can relate to: fear, uncertainty, control, and being alone, and valuing our relationships. When it comes to fear, the antidote to fear is faith and trust that everything is working out for a reason, for your highest good, whatever you as an individual feel that faith and trust to equate to. So when we have fear, again, it's about leaning into that discomfort. Lean into the fear. Feel the fear. Name it. Explore it with curiosity. Reflect and uncover what's underneath it and fueling it. You take your power back when you do these things. When you analyze your fear, when you reflect on it, when you're introspective and you can uncover what's fueling it, because a lot of the times we can realize that perhaps we're making a lot of our fears larger than they are in our heads. And by breaking it down, you can understand what actions you can take to diminish it, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Fearlessness is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of fear. Which brings us to uncertainty. The antidote to uncertainty is acceptance. The truth of life is uncertainty. At the heart of it, we have no idea what's going on. We have no context to our lives. There is just so much uncertainty. Uncertainty is at the core of life. And so when we choose to embrace not knowing, we begin to work with uncertainty and work with this truth. Resistance breeds suffering. The only alternate way I know is to accept uncertainty and change, to adapt and dance with it. It's like Tai Chi. Instead of resisting and working in opposition of the force coming at you, you work with the energy you get. And that's how you remain centered amidst chaos. I hope I'm speaking correctly on the subject of Tai Chi. I think I am. But I'll throw that disclaimer out there. It's hard, right? Uncertainty is so difficult. And I'm not going to speak in the context of a global pandemic, but I'll speak in the context of our lives. We have no idea what the next year will truly hold for us. We have no idea what 3 chapters of our lives from now, what will be happening and where we'll be. And I think that there's a great joy in that because the alternate would be that we know, that we truly know, not that we think we know, but we know. We know every chapter of our lives till the day we die. And that would be incredibly boring, right? I think that when we can look at, okay, what if I knew? What if I had all the answers? Would my life really be better? Or would it just be different? And would that difference actually be something I want? The next subject we really had to face this year was control. This year showed us truly how little control we have. On the contrary, it showed us all we can control is ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, and responses. If we don't like or we want to improve how we're thinking, acting, and responding, that's in our complete control. And doing so and taking that control and making those positive changes will completely shift our whole experience. That is the whole concept of Reself. And that's exactly what Reself empowers users to do, is to take control of themselves, make those changes that we need to make in order to be ever growing, ever evolving, and able to navigate life, right? Fear, uncertainty, control, all of these things we've had to face this year. Reself gives us the tools and wisdom to guide us and navigate life while remaining centered. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows from here on out, but it's about finding that place within ourselves and nourishing that place within ourselves that is capable of handling the darkest storms, the harshest storms, and being resilient. And in that same context, this year we've really had to face time alone and the 2 sides of that experience, being lonely or being alone. With quarantine, a lot of us who don't choose to be alone and perhaps avoid being alone were forced to face it, and that was very difficult. On the flip side, some of us, myself being included, who prefer to be alone, our living situations changed so that we were living with others. And that was incredibly difficult. Both illuminate the areas for improvement. Both give us the feedback we need. So if we're avoiding being alone, well, perhaps we're afraid of our thoughts. Perhaps our mind is more of a prison than it is a place of fertile ground for imagination and dreaming and problem solving. For those who prefer to be alone, perhaps it's easier to be alone because we don't have to face what is difficult in relationships. And we'll get to relationships. But learning how to embrace and enjoy our own presence is absolutely essential. The truth is, you are the only person you are going to spend your entire life with, from birth to death. You're living with yourself 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, all of the years that you are alive. It's time to end the internal war. It's time to move from being the prisoner of your mind to the gatekeeper of your mind. It's time to heal, and it's time to become your best friend. I know that might sound corny to a lot of people and cheesy and cliche, but there's so much truth in that. And it really comes down to small, consistent action. It's starting where you are. Literally all you need is yourself and an open mind, some courage, and you can begin to make those positive changes. You can begin to take every experience you're having and learn from it, reflect on it, and figure out, what do I need to still heal here? What is really underlying my reaction that's taking away my power and making me react rather than respond. Because when we react, we're unconsciously acting. But when we respond, we take the time to be conscious, to reflect, to bring awareness to a situation, and then act in accordance with all of that. We have to nurture and care for ourselves. And it goes deeper than what we're marketed as self-care. I love self-care, but I think that what is shoved down our throats is that self-care is just a physical thing. But caring for ourselves means daily commitment to ourselves and our well-being by nurturing our minds, our bodies, and our souls. In the context of relationships, this year and all the difficulty it's brought has really shown us the value of relationships, the value of connection, both physically and emotionally. And I think we really needed this because with so much of our connection going online and then being forced to only really connect online, we are faced with the reality that that is not feeding our human need for relationship and connection. It's made us appreciate each other so much more and appreciate so many things that we took for granted. And I invite you to bring that in to the new year with you, to really let that resonate with you and carry that throughout your life from this experience. Because really what we're going through right now is something that will define our lifetime. And how much better will it be to embrace these lessons and let them fuel our growth and really learn from them rather than returning to the old. Because I think that so much of this year was about forcing us to face our reality individually and collectively and ask ourselves, is this really what we want? Is this really the direction we want to go? And I think for so many of us, the answer was no. Perhaps it was blatantly obvious what we want when faced with these realities. And I invite you to use that to plant the seeds for change in yourself. Because what's the purpose if we don't learn from it? What's the purpose if we don't grow from it? And trust me, I totally understand. Integrating these lessons takes time and time again. But so long as you write them down in a physical journal, again, I'll get to this in another episode, and really hold these lessons close to your heart, you will be okay. And lastly, this year has really shown us that life is short and also exhaustively long. It forced us to come face to face with this truth that life is too short, too precious, too painful, and too incredible to waste. As Paulo Coelho says in The Alchemist, a fantastic book, by the way, which I will link in the show notes, you will never be able to escape your heart, so it is better to listen to what it has to say. Follow your heart, follow your own path, feel the fear and do it anyway. Life is too short to follow someone else's path. Life is too short to hear the pings of your heart and not listen to them. Life is too short to have shitty friendships, shitty relationships. You fill in the blank. Life is too short to accept what we're accepting because we're afraid to change, because we're afraid to have ambition, because we're afraid to take the risk to get the reward that is far greater than settling. Life is too short to settle. Another quote from The Alchemist, which I will just say, if you're looking for a book on this subject of following your heart, something that's really going to inspire you, if you feel like, okay, I'm ready, I've learned all these things this year, I've come face to face with what I feel like I'm settling for, I want to do away with the fear, I want to have trust in the universe, I want to follow my own path, read The Alchemist. Books are incredible, and again, a topic for another discussion. This book will touch your heart and inspire you, as do so many of Paulo Coelho's books, by the way. On that subject, if you read one book, read The Alchemist, and I promise you won't regret it. So another quote from The Alchemist, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it." I truly believe that. Good and bad, right? Because we'll follow paths that we think are going to take us where we want to go, and shit will hit the fan, and in retrospect, after things calm down and we integrate the lessons and we learn them and we reflect, we realize, okay, right, that wasn't the right path. Everything works itself out, and we just have to trust and be along for the ride. There's a great quote. I don't know it verbatim off the top of my head, so I'll summarize. When you swim, you don't grab at the water because that's how you drown. When you swim, you let go and you float. Think about that in the context of this discussion. Finally, like I said, to end on a collective note, we've learned that each individual's actions truly affect, impact, and determine the whole, both positively and negatively. And this year forced everyone to face the realities of injustice and the need for change within the US and globally. We are here to help each other, to guide each other. It doesn't serve us to judge one another, to put each other down, to have this idea that it's me or them. We're all in this together. I think we've seen we all need to help each other more. Just as much as we are individuals, we are a collective and we are one. We are all individual parts of the same whole thing, and not everyone needs to dedicate their life's work to the cause of improving the world, which is noble, and we need those people, and we need to appreciate the work those people do, and we need to do everything we can as individuals to support them. It is essential that we understand our individual impact in creating a better world together, ending silence and complacency on matters of injustice, doing what we can to diminish our environmental impact by using less single-use items and turning to secondhand and thrift stores instead of fast fashion. We have the power to change society. We have the power to change the direction in which this world is going, which is incredibly scary and incredibly overwhelming at times. But we have to remember that as individuals, we make up the collective. In a democracy, it's our vote, but as individuals, our actions are our votes, especially with our money. Where we give our money is where we're voting for and against. If we're giving our money to fast fashion, we're voting for pollution, for inhumane labor practices. It's so easy to be complacent in the face of unjust practices in all senses. And I'm just as guilty as the next person, but it's about consciously stopping ourselves, questioning our actions, and using our actions to make good decisions. We have the power, the people. This year revealed and surfaced all that it did so we can move forward with awareness, fueling our collective healing and improvement. I truly believe that. And even if you have a hard time believing it, suspend your disbelief for a second and imagine what the future could hold if each one of us held that idea that this year revealed and surfaced all that it did so we can move forward with awareness, fueling our collective healing and improvement. What that might look like to you. Close your eyes. Except if you're driving. And just take a moment and envision that. And do the same thing for yourself. Suspend your disbelief. Suspend the context of all the crap, so to speak, going on in your head, going on in your life. And just imagine, what would your life look like in the future by the end of 2021 if you moved forward with awareness, fueling your individual healing and improvement? How does your life look to you? How do you feel? Hold on to those feelings, hold on to that vision, and whenever you get stuck, close your eyes, remember those feelings, remember that vision, and let that be your fuel when you're not motivated, when you're struggling to be productive, when you forget to nurture your mind your body and your soul. Let all of these lessons, let all that this year has taught you stay in your heart and fuel your power to change your life, to follow your heart, to heal, to follow your own path, to feel the fear and do it anyway. The 20s are just getting started. It's only up from here. So aim your intentions towards the light. Tap into these lessons, that vision, and those feelings. The next few episodes are going to focus on setting you up to make the most out of 2021 and becoming the next version of yourself and really making the most out of 2021, sticking to those goals. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you prefer so you don't miss a single episode of valuable tools and insight. Follow Reself on Instagram at reself.app for uplifting and inspiring content, reflection prompts, and some pictures of nature, because looking at nature, even just pictures of nature, is proven to help us relax and calm. Follow us on Pinterest and Tumblr for all my fellow Tumblr kids. All of those links will be included in the show notes. I hope that this has inspired you as much as it has inspired me to review some of the lessons we've had to come face to face with this year. I hope that everyone has a wonderful, warm, safe holiday season, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.